The great chamber of the Galactic Council was the most beautiful place Cole had ever seen. Walls of living crystal stretched upward for hundreds of meters. Light from a dozen different suns poured through windows made of compressed starlight. Representatives from 400 different species sat in floating chairs that moved on their own, arranged in a massive circle around a central platform. Stood near the back, in the section reserved for minor species. Earth had only joined the galactic community 5 years ago, and humans were still considered children among the stars. His official title was ambassador, but most days he felt more like an errand boy. He fetched documents. He delivered messages. He sat quietly while older species made decisions that affected billions of lives. Today was different. Today, the entire council had gathered for the reading of a will. King X of the Empire had died 3 days ago. He had ruled for 600 years, and his death had sent shockwaves through the galaxy. They were one of the founding species of the council. Their skin glowed with soft bioluminescent light, and they considered themselves the most beautiful and advanced beings in existence. Remembered the old king, though he had not known who he was at the time. 3 weeks ago had found an elderly collapsed in a maintenance corridor. The alien's glow was weak and fatting. His expensive robes were dirty. He looked like a servant who had gotten lost. Had knelt beside him and offered water from his own bottle. When the old could not hold the bottle, had helped him drink. They had sat together for an hour, talking about simple things. Had shared his lunch, a sandwich from Earth that the alien had found strange but interesting. The old had asked why he was being kind to a stranger. Had shrugged and said it was just the right thing to do. The alien had smiled at that, a sad and tired smile, and palace guards had eventually found them and taken the old one away. Had not thought about it again until now. The High Speaker, a being made of floating geometric shapes, projected its voice across the chamber. The will of King X contains an unusual provision. The king has left his personal estate on the moon of IV, along with all its contents and obligations, to the being who showed him kindness in his final days. Murmurs filled the chamber. Every species had diplomats who had tried to win the dying king's favor. Fortunes had been spent on gifts. Elaborate ceremonies had been performed. Everyone wanted a piece of the legacy. The inheritor, the High Speaker continued, is Ambassador Cole of Earth. Silence fell over the chamber, then laughter began. It started with the delegation, their glowing bodies pulsing with amusement. It spread to the other elder species, those who had looked down on humanity since first contact. Soon, hundreds of aliens were laughing, their various sounds of mockery filling the crystal chamber. Felt his face grow hot. He did not understand what was happening. Lord, the new head of the delegation and the dead king's brother-in-law, stepped onto the central platform. His glow was bright blue, a sign of barely contained delight. The human must also accept all obligations that come with the estate, Lord announced, his voice carrying over the fatting laughter, including guardianship of the king's youngest daughter, Princess. The laughter grew louder. Some species were now making gestures that recognized as mockery, even though he did not know their specific meanings. The princess is unmarried and will remain in the human's care until she finds a suitable match, Lord continued. Of course, no match has been found in 200 years, so I am sure the human will have great success where we have failed. More laughter. Notice that some of the younger delegates from smaller species were not laughing. They looked at him with pity. After the session ended, a young translator from the species approached. They were insect-like beings known for their honesty. You do not understand why they laugh, they said. It was not a question. No, admitted. Princess is what they call shadowborn. She produces no bioluminescent light and she cannot see it. Among her people, this is considered a curse. She is blind to everything they find beautiful. She has been hidden away in shame for her entire life. Felt something cold settle in his stomach. They are laughing because I inherited a person they think is worthless. They are laughing because you have been given a burden no one wants. The estate is crumbling. The princess is considered damaged. King X has played a final joke, they believe, giving his garbage to the garbage species. They walked away, leaving alone in the emptying chamber. He stood there for a long time, thinking about the old king who had sat with him in that corridor. The king who had asked why was being kind. The king who had smiled that sad, tired smile. Had it been a joke, or had it been something else? Made his decision. He walked to the central platform where the official recorders were still present and spoke clearly. I accept the inheritance, all of it. The recorders noted his acceptance without comment. Lord, who had been speaking with other nobles nearby, turned to look at with an expression of amused disbelief. You understand what you are accepting, human. A worthless moon, a crumbling building, and a defective princess that no one wants. You will be responsible for her care, her feeding, her protection. She is a burden that will drain whatever small resources your primitive species possesses. Met the alien's glowing eyes. I understand. Then you are as foolish as we believed. Enjoy your inheritance, human. Try not to break it. Lord swept away, his entourage following behind him, their laughter echoing off the crystal walls. 3 days later, received a data packet containing the details of his inheritance. The estate on IV had not been maintained in decades. The staff had all been dismissed years ago. The only living occupant was Princess herself, who had lived alone in the decaying palace for over 50 years. There was an image attached to the file. Opened it and saw a woman standing in a dark room. Unlike others of her kind, her skin did not glow. She was beautiful in a way that reminded of moonlight rather than sunlight, pale and silver and quiet. Her eyes were open but empty, seeing nothing in the way her people understood sight. She looked like someone who had stopped hopping for anything a very long time ago. Read through the legal documents. He read about the obligations he had accepted. He read about the estate's debts, its failing systems, its worthlessness in the eyes of the galactic community. Then he closed the files and began making arrangements for travel. Somewhere on a forgotten moon, a princess who had never known kindness was waiting. The galaxy thought it was a joke. They thought the human had been given trash. Cole was about to prove them wrong. The shuttle landed on IV in the middle of what passed for night on the small moon, stepped out onto cracked landing pads that had not been repaired in years. Weeds that glowed faintly purple pushed through the broken stone. The air was thin but breathable, carrying a smell like old metal and forgotten things. The estate rose before him, a palace built in the style. Once, it must have been magnificent. The walls were designed to channel and reflect bioluminescent light, creating patterns of living color. But with no one to provide that light, the palace was just a dark shape against the darker sky, its beauty invisible and useless. Walked to the main entrance. The doors were massive, built for beings who wanted to impress visitors. He pushed them open and stepped inside. "Hello," he called out. His voice echoed through empty halls. "Princess, I am Cole. I am the one who inherited this estate. I am here to meet you." Silence answered him. He walked deeper into the palace, using a small flashlight from his pack. The beam revealed dusty floors, faded tapestries, and furniture covered in white sheets like ghosts of a forgotten life. He found her in what must have been a sitting room, though it had become something else over the years. The furniture had been pushed against the walls. The floor was covered with objects arranged in careful patterns. Saw stones of different textures, pieces of metal, scraps of fabric, all organized by some system he did not understand. Sat in the center of the room, her legs folded beneath her. She did not turn when he entered. She did not react to his flashlight, but he saw her body tense, aware of his presence in some way he could not understand. "You are the human," she said. Her voice was soft, unused to speaking. You have come to see what you have been cursed with. Turned off his flashlight and sat down on the floor near the doorway, giving her space. I came to meet you, to talk if you want to talk. Talk, she turned her head toward him and he saw her eyes for the first time. They were silver like mirrors, beautiful and empty of the light her people valued. No one talks to me. They speak at me sometimes, instructions, commands, announcements that food has been left outside my door, but talking is for people who matter. You matter to me, said simply. She made a sound that might have been a laugh, but there was no joy in it. You do not know me. You cannot mean that. You are right. I do not know you yet, but I would like to, if you will let me. For a long moment she was silent. Then she asked, why did you accept this inheritance? Everyone knows it is worthless. I am worthless. This place is worthless. The old king gave you garbage as a final insult. I do not believe that, said. I met your father before he died. He was kind and he was tired and he was sad. I do not think he was trying to insult me. I think he was trying to give you to someone who might treat you well. She turned her face away. You are wrong. He never cared about me. No one has ever cared about me. Did not argue. He had learned long ago that words meant little compared to actions. Instead, he changed the subject. Can I ask you something about how you see? I mean, how you perceive the world. I know you cannot see bioluminescent light, but I am curious about what you can sense. The question seemed to surprise her. Why do you care about that? Because I want to understand you, and because I think maybe your people were wrong to consider you blind. I think maybe you just see differently. She was quiet for a while. Then slowly she began to speak. I feel heat, she said. Every living thing produces warmth, and I can sense it like you might see colors. You are a warm orange shape sitting by the door. Your heart beats faster than us, and I can feel each pulse of blood through your body. Leaned forward, fascinated. What else? Electromagnetic fields. Your flashlight device has a power cell that hums with contained energy. The walls of this palace are threaded with old wiring that sings to me, even though the power has been off for years. When ships pass overhead, I feel them as moving knots of electricity against the sky. That is amazing, said, and he meant it. She turned back toward him, her silver eyes wide with confusion. Amazing. My people consider it disgusting. I am broken. I cannot see the beauty of our light, only the ugly mechanics of the universe. Listen to me. Moved closer, though he did not touch her. On Earth, we have people who cannot see light at all. We do not consider them broken. We consider them people with different abilities. And what you just described is not disgusting. It is incredible. You can see things no one else can see. She did not respond, but he saw something change in her posture. A tiny loosening of tension she had held for so long she probably did not know she was holding it. Over the following weeks, worked to repair the estate. He called Earth and requested supplies, engineers, equipment. The Galactic Council watched with amusement as primitive human technology was shipped to the Forgotten Moon. Let them laugh, thought. Let them underestimate us. He spent his evenings with. He played music for her, and she described how it felt like waves of pressure that painted pictures in her mind. He described Earth's sunsets, not in terms of color but of warmth, and she listened with hunger in her expression. She learned quickly. She had been starved for attention and stimulation her whole life, and now that someone was offering it, she absorbed knowledge like dry ground absorbing rain. Within a month, she was speaking 3 human languages. Within 2 months, she was helping review trade agreements, her ability to sense electromagnetic fluctuations allowing her to detect when communication devices were being used to secretly record conversations. One evening, discovered something in the basement of the estate, an old mine entrance, sealed long ago. Scans showed the mine contained massive deposits of a mineral called. The stopped mining this decades ago, explained when he told her, is useless to most species. It does not conduct their forms of energy. But was smiling. It is not useless to humans. is perfect for human FTL drives. This mine could power Earth's entire fleet for centuries. For the first time, he saw hope in Silver eyes. Then the estate is not worthless. It never was, said, and neither were you. The next morning, a ship appeared in orbit. It was a military vessel, and it carried Lord and 50 armed soldiers. I have come for my niece, Lord announced, his blue glow burning with anger. The human has no right to keep a princess. She will be returned to proper custody immediately. Stood at the entrance of his estate, blocking the door. Behind him, he could feel warm presence, her fear and her fragile new hope. No, said, she stays with me. Lord's glow brightened with fury. You dare refuse. I dare. Take me to the council if you want, but you are not taking her anywhere. The Galactic Council chamber was filled to capacity. News of the dispute had spread across 1,000 worlds, and everyone wanted to watch the human be humiliated. Lord stood on the central platform, his bioluminescent skin glowing with righteous anger. This human has stolen a princess of the Empire. He has taken advantage of an old king's dying confusion. He must be stripped of his false inheritance and punished for his arrogance. The elder species nodded in agreement. The younger species remained silent, watching. Stood alone in the section reserved for the accused. He had no lawyer, no advisor, no support. Humanity was too new to the galactic stage to have allies in places of power. The High Speaker's geometric shapes spun slowly as it considered the case. The will of King X was legally recorded and properly witnessed. The inheritance is valid under galactic law. Then I challenge the inheritance itself, Lord declared. By ancient tradition, any inheritance can be contested if the inheritor is proven unworthy. I demand a trial of worth. Let the human prove he deserves what he has been given. The chamber erupted in excited murmurs. Trials of worth were rare, reserved for the most significant disputes. They were entertainment of the highest order. The challenge is accepted, the High Speaker announced. Ambassador Cole will have 30 standard days to prove his worth to this council. If he fails, the estate will pass to Lord and Princess will be placed in a care facility for defective royals. Felt cold rage settle in his chest, but he kept his face calm. And if I succeed? Lord laughed. You will not succeed, human. You have no fleet, no empire, no history. You are nothing. If I succeed, repeated, looking at the High Speaker. If you succeed, the inheritance will be confirmed permanently, and no further challenges will be permitted. Nodded, then I accept the challenge. The next 30 days were the most intense of Cole's life. He sent messages to Earth, calling in every favor he had ever earned. Ships began arriving at IV carrying engineers, scientists, doctors, and diplomats. The estate became a construction site, with human workers repairing systems that had been broken for decades. The watched with confusion. Why were the humans working so hard for a worthless moon and a defective princess? What could they possibly hope to gain? Worked alongside the humans, and she discovered something remarkable. She was not useless. She was not a burden. Her abilities made her valuable in ways no one had imagined. The human engineers asked her to scan their equipment for electrical faults. She found problems they had missed, preventing accidents before they happened. The scientists asked her to map the deposits beneath the estate, and she provided detailed readings that their machines could not match. But her greatest contribution came from an unexpected source. The void corridors were the most dangerous shipping routes in the galaxy. They cut through regions of twisted space where normal navigation systems failed completely. Ships that entered the corridors had a 50% chance of never coming out. No species had ever mapped them successfully, but could sense the electromagnetic distortions that made the corridors so deadly. To her unusual perception, the safe paths through the twisted space glowed like roads through a dark forest. Arranged for a test. A human cargo ship, equipped with communication systems linked to, entered the closest void corridor. For 6 terrifying hours, guided the pilot through the darkness, telling them when to turn, when to slow down, when to accelerate. The ship emerged safely on the other side, completing a journey that normally took 2 weeks in just 6 hours. Word spread quickly. The humans had found a way to navigate the void corridors. The worthless princess could see what no one else could see. Lord grew worried. He had expected the human to fail quietly, to give up and surrender. Instead, the human was building something. The estate was coming back to life. The princess was becoming valuable. He decided to take more direct action. The assassins came on the 20th night. There were 4 of them, professionals from a species known for their deadly efficiency. They slipped past the estate's security systems and moved through the dark corridors, heading for sleeping quarters. They did not know that could feel their heartbeats through the walls. She woke with a touch, her silver eyes wide with fear. 4 warm shapes, she whispered, moving through the east wing. They carry energy weapons that hum with killing charges. Grabbed the weapon he kept beside his bed, a simple human projectile gun. The assassins had energy shields that could stop plasma bolts and laser beams. They were not designed to stop small pieces of metal traveling at high speed. The fight was brief and brutal. Was not a soldier, but he had trained for this. He moved through the dark corridors of his estate, guided by whispered directions. She told him where the assassins were, how they moved when they prepared to fire. 2 assassins fell to his gun before they knew they were being hunted. The third managed to fire once, burning a line across his shoulder, before a bullet ended his life. The 4th tried to run and was captured by human security forces who had been alerted by the noise. Sat on the floor of his estate, bleeding from his wound, surrounded by the bodies of those who had tried to kill him. Knelt beside him, her hands pressing a cloth to his injury. "You could have been killed," she said, and her voice was thick with emotion. "So could you," replied. "They would have killed you too. Why do you protect me? Why do you fight for me? I am nothing." Took her hand in his, ignoring the pain from his wound. "You are not nothing. You are my partner. You saved my life tonight. You have saved humanity's future by opening the void corridors. You are the most valuable person I know." Tears ran down her silver cheeks, the first tears she had shed in 100 years. "No one has ever said such things to me." "Then everyone else was blind," said, "not you, them." The assassination attempt changed everything. An investigation revealed that Lord had hired the killers. He had, of course, but the evidence was clear. The council was forced to acknowledge that the Lord had tried to murder a fellow delegate and a princess of his own bloodline. Lord's allies began to distance themselves from him. His support in the council weakened. And on the 30th day, Cole walked into the council chamber to present his case. He was not alone this time. Princess walked beside him, her head held high, her silver eyes seeing nothing and everything. The elder species watched them approach. Some still laughed, most did not. Something had changed, and everyone could feel it. The grand tribunal chamber was larger than the regular council meeting room. Its walls were made of black crystal that absorbed light, creating a space that felt endless and empty. In the center, a platform of white stone floated above a bottomless pit. This was where the most important disputes of the galaxy were settled. Lord stood on one side of the platform, his bioluminescent glow dimmed by stress and anger. The assassination scandal had damaged his reputation, but he still had powerful friends. He still believed he would win. Cole stood on the other side with beside him. The human ambassador looked different than he had 30 days ago. There was a confidence in his stance, a calmness in his eyes. He looked like a man who knew something that others did not. The High Speaker floated above them all. "This tribunal will determine the outcome of the trial of worth. Lord, you may present your case." Stepped forward, his voice ringing through the chamber. The human is unworthy because humanity is unworthy. They are newcomers to the stars, primitive beings who only discovered faster-than-light travel a century ago. They have no fleet worth mentioning. They have no empire. They have no legacy. They have contributed nothing to galactic civilization. He gestured at with contempt. This man inherited the estate through a dying king's moment of confusion. He has no understanding of traditions. He has no ability to manage royal responsibilities. And he certainly has no capacity to care for a princess of our bloodline, even one as unfortunate as. Several elder species made sounds of agreement. The in attendance glowed with approval. The estate on IV belongs in hands, continued. The princess belongs in proper care, and the human belongs back on his primitive, where he can stop embarrassing himself and his species. He finished with a smile of satisfaction and stepped back. The high speaker turned its geometric shapes toward. Ambassador Cole, you may present your response. Did not move immediately. He stood still, looking out at the thousands of beings watching from the observation galleries. He saw contempt in most faces, pity in a few, curiosity in others. Lord is correct about one thing, began, his voice calm and clear. Humanity is new to the stars. We have no great fleet. We have no ancient empire. By your standards, we are children. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. But Lord is wrong about everything else. Raised his hand, and holographic displays appeared in the air around him. Charts, graphs, images, documents. In the 30 days since this trial began, humanity has accomplished what they failed to do in decades. We have restored the estate on IV to full functionality. We have reopened the mines, which will now provide fuel for human expansion across the galaxy for the next 500 years. We have established the estate as a trading hub that has already attracted interest from 47 different species. The displays changed, showing ship routes and trade agreements. But our greatest accomplishment has nothing to do with buildings or minerals. Our greatest accomplishment stands beside me. He turned to who stepped forward. The chamber fell silent. Princess was considered worthless by her people because she could not see their bioluminescent light. They called her blind. They called her cursed. They locked her away in shame and left her to rot. His voice grew harder, but is not blind. She sees electromagnetic fields. She feels heat signatures. She perceives things that no other species in this galaxy can perceive. And because of her abilities, she has done something that no one thought possible. New displays appeared, showing 3 human ships and their flight paths. In the past 2 weeks, has guided 3 human vessels through the void corridors. She can see the safe paths through the twisted space that has killed thousands of ships over the centuries. The routes she has mapped will save trillions of credits in shipping costs. They will open trade between regions of the galaxy that have never been connected before. The chamber erupted in shocked conversations. The void corridors were a barrier that every species had accepted as impossible to cross safely. If the human was telling the truth, everything would change. But there is more, continued, raising his voice over the noise. Has another gift. She can sense electromagnetic fluctuations in neural tissue. In simple terms, she can tell when someone is lying. He turned to look at Lord, which is why she has been assisting me in trade negotiations for the past 3 weeks. 12 species have signed exclusive agreements with Earth. 12 species who were tired of being cheated by the elder powers, who wanted a fair deal for once. Help me give them that. The displays showed the trade agreements, each one signed, and the worthless princess has made humanity a major economic power in 30 days. The defective royal has achieved more than the entire diplomatic corps has achieved in a century. Turned back to the high speaker. You asked me to prove my worth. I believe I have done so, but I am not finished. He looked out at the assembled species. I know many of you think humanity is a joke. I know many of you have laughed at us, dismissed us, ignored us. But I want you to understand something about humans. We do not give up. We do not abandon those we care about. And we do not accept that anyone is worthless just because they are different." He reached out and took his hand. She squeezed his fingers, her silver eyes filled with emotion. "King X gave me this inheritance because I showed him kindness when he was dying. A simple thing, a sandwich, some water, an hour of conversation. But that simple kindness mattered to him more than all the elaborate gifts and ceremonies the rest of you offered." His voice softened. "Maybe that is what humanity can contribute to galactic civilization. Not fleets, not empires, just the simple understanding that every being has value, that no one should be thrown away." The chamber was silent. Even Lord had no response. Stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice was clear and strong, using high, the formal language of her people. "I have been silent for 200 years. I have been hidden in darkness and told that I was a curse upon my family. I have wished for death more times than I can count." She turned to face the delegation. "But this human saw something in me that my own people refused to see. He treated me with respect. He listened to my voice. He helped me understand that my differences are not weakness. They are strength." Her silver eyes swept across the chamber. "I am princess of the empire, and I choose to stand with humanity. Not because I was given to them as garbage, but because they are the only beings in this galaxy who have ever treated me as a person." She turned to the High Speaker. "Whatever this tribunal decides, that is my choice, and no one can take it from me." The High Speaker was still for a long moment. Then its shapes began to spin faster. "The tribunal will vote. All those who find Ambassador Cole worthy of his inheritance indicate now." Lights began to appear across the chamber, one by one, then in groups, then in waves. Species that had been silent began to vote. Species that had laughed began to reconsider. Species that had dismissed humanity began to see them differently. When the count was finished, it was not close. Cole was confirmed as the rightful heir of King X. The estate was his, and Princess would remain in his care, by her own choice and by galactic law. Lord stood alone on his side of the platform. His glow faded to almost nothing. He had lost everything, and humanity had just announced its arrival on the galactic stage. 1 year had passed since the tribunal, and the moon of IV was unrecognizable. Where there had been crumbling walls and broken landing pads, there now stood a thriving city. Ships from 100 different species came and went every day, their holds filled with goods traveling through the void corridor routes that had mapped. The mines operated at full capacity, fueling humanity's expansion across the galaxy. The old palace had been restored to its original beauty, but now it glowed with both light and human warmth. They called it new, and it had become one of the most important trading hubs in the known galaxy. Cole stood on the balcony of what had once been a dying king's forgotten estate, watching ships rise and fall against the stars. He was dressed in formal clothes today, the kind he had never expected to wear when he first joined the diplomatic corps. His title had changed as well. He was no longer just an ambassador. The Galactic Council had offered him a seat on the inner circle, the first human ever to receive such an honor. He had accepted, but only after making one demand. Princess must be recognized as a full ambassador in her own right. The council had agreed. They had no choice. Abilities had made her the most valuable diplomat in the galaxy. Species competed for her attention, hoping she would help them navigate the void corridors or detect deception in their negotiations. The princess who had once been hidden away in shame now walked openly through the corridors of power, and everyone who saw her treated her with respect. The door behind opened and stepped onto the balcony. She moved with confidence now, her posture straight and proud. Her silver eyes still saw nothing in the way her people understood sight, but she perceived the world in ways that made vision seem limited by comparison. "The delegation has arrived," she said. "They are waiting in the reception hall." Nodded, but he did not turn around. How do they feel? Can you sense their mood? Moved to stand beside him, her skin cool against the warmth of his arm. Nervous, afraid, humiliated. Their economy has collapsed since they lost access to our trade routes. They come to beg for terms. And how do you feel about that? She was quiet for a moment. I thought I would feel satisfaction. They treated me as garbage for 200 years. They threw me away like I was nothing. Now they need something from me, and I have the power to refuse them. But I feel nothing. They are not worth my hatred. They are just sad, broken by their own arrogance. Finally turned to look at her. In the year since they had met, she had changed so much. She had grown from a woman who expected cruelty into one who gave kindness freely. She had learned to trust, to hope, to dream of a future. And somewhere along the way, she had become the most important person in his life. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "This is your decision. Whatever you choose, I will support you." Considered the question carefully. "I want to give them fair terms, not generous, not cruel, just fair. They will have access to our trade routes, but they will pay the same rates as everyone else. They will not receive special treatment because they once considered themselves superior." And their apology, their request for forgiveness. Her silver eyes met his, and he saw peace in them. "I do not need their forgiveness. I have something better. I have a home. I have purpose. I have someone who believes in me." She reached out and took his hand. That is worth more than any apology they could offer. They went to the reception hall together, walking side by side as equals. The delegation waited in the center of the room, their bioluminescent glow dimmed by stress and desperation. There were 12 of them, including the new head of their government, a woman named Lady who had risen to power after Lord's disgrace. Lord himself had vanished after the tribunal. Some said he had fled to the outer regions of the galaxy. Others said he had taken his own life in shame. Did not know the truth, and he did not care to find out. Lady stepped forward and bowed deeply. "Ambassador Cole, Princess, thank you for agreeing to meet with us. We are happy to discuss trade agreements," said. "Please sit down." The negotiations took several hours, but they were not difficult. They had nothing to bargain with except their desperate need, and its ability to detect deception made dishonesty pointless. In the end, they agreed to terms that were fair but not favorable. As the delegation prepared to leave, Lady approached privately. The older woman's glow flickered with uncertainty. "Princess, I want you to know that many of us regret how you were treated. We were blind to your value. We were cruel without reason. If there is anything I can do to make amends." Looked at the woman with eyes that saw heat and electromagnetic fields and the subtle fluctuations of a guilty conscience. "You can treat the next Shadowborn child differently. You can remember that worth is not measured by what someone can see, but by what they can do." Lady nodded slowly. "I will remember, I promise." After the delegation had departed and returned to their balcony, the artificial night cycle had begun, and the city below sparkled with lights from 100 different species, all living and working together in a place that had once been forgotten by the galaxy. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if your father had left his estate to someone else?" asked. Leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. "Sometimes. I think I would have been sent to that care facility. I would have lived out my years in a small room, alone and forgotten, until I finally gave up and died. I am glad that did not happen." "So am I." She was quiet for a moment. "Do you know what I think about more often? I think about that moment in the corridor when you sat with a dying old man and shared your lunch with him. You did not know who he was. You gained nothing from being kind. You simply did it because it was the right thing to do." Smiled. "It was just a sandwich." "It was not just a sandwich, it was everything. That one act of kindness changed my entire life. It changed humanity's future. It changed the galaxy." She turned to face him, her silver eyes reflecting the lights of the city below. The council laughed when you inherited me. They thought you had been given a burden, a curse, a worthless prize, but you saw something else. You saw potential, you saw value, you saw me. Reached up and touched her face gently. I still see you, every day. And I see you, she whispered. In my own way, I see your warmth. I feel your heartbeat. I know your kindness and your strength and your stubborn refusal to give up on anyone. They stood together on the balcony of their home, watching ships rise toward the stars. Behind them, a city thrived. Around them, a galaxy that had once dismissed humanity was learning to respect them. And between them, a bond had formed that was stronger than any treaty or trade agreement. The Galactic Council had laughed when a human inherited an unwanted daughter. Now, humanity stood among the powers of the galaxy, and the princess they had called worthless was one of the most important people in known space. And somewhere in whatever afterlife awaited kings, old X was smiling. He had not given his inheritance to the human as a joke. He had given it as a gift to his daughter who deserved to be loved, a gift to humanity who deserved a chance, and a gift to the galaxy who deserved to learn that worth is not measured by what you are born with, but by what you choose to become. The dawn had arrived, and nobody was laughing anymore.